Hello, this is Annika Lindqvist. I'm the founder of Pedestrian Space. We are an NGO working at the intersection of advocacy, media, communications, and research about issues of walkability, but much more broadly, urban resilience. And as part of that, we are working on a pilot program for 2027 on urban heat, rebranding it as the Global Urban Heat Media Lab. I've been promoting this across channels and receiving a really incredible, sometimes overwhelming response, but I'm going to look at it as a good thing. Responses from scholars, freshly graduated bachelor students, master students in their programs, freshly graduated PhD students, practitioners, professionals, all writing to collaborate. So I'm taking the time this month, it's August, 2026, across the headlines here in Europe is heat wave, heat wave, heat wave, as we know. So it's a topic that's on a lot of people's minds. But as a lot of us researchers and professionals know, it's not a new issue. So I'm really looking forward to putting together this program. And as part of that, having these meetings with people who have reached out. I'm here with Eva today. Eva is based in Georgia. She's an urban planner in Atlanta, Georgia, also in the process of getting her master's in global development, really interesting, at the Georgia Institute of Technology. And before we started recording, we've been talking about her background, the work she's doing on an urban heat mitigation and action plan for the county she works for. So I'm really looking forward to recording this and getting this documented, this moment in time with you before the pilot happens. As we develop this network, you had some beautiful thoughts, I thought, about the network itself and its value. So I'd love to turn it over to you and hear about your work and about that heat action plan.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Eva Chaveau. I'm super excited to be here and talk with Monica about the beauty that is collaboration on the international scale, the international level, and to see this kind of work being done not only in, my country, which is America right now, but also just in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, all over. And so this is great that we're able to kind of build a network where we can communicate with each other and figure out different ideas and how we want to push that needle forward for change, especially for climate change. But yeah, no, my background is in anthropology. I graduated from the University of Georgia with a bachelor's of arts in anthropology. I minored in landscape architecture and a certificate in historic preservation. So a lot of background in infrastructure development, and understanding kind of how we interact, us as humans, with our environment, with the built environment, and trying to build out better landscapes. But yeah, I've taken that work into my career as an urban planner. I've been working with DeKalb County for a little under 2 years, but I'm super excited to kind of see where I can take my career, especially from an urban heat perspective. So we've recently taken on this kind of job of creating an urban heat action and mitigation plan for the county, really looking at getting some ideas for how we want to do this, how we want to set this up, and understanding just kind of how heat affects different communities, different demographics. We're pretty diverse here in DeKalb County. We're 85% suburbia. So understanding how urban heat impacts different individuals on a different level is super critical to how we actually shape policy, and how we address heat to policymakers. And so really and truly, we want to definitely see regulation come out of this, that encourages action towards heat mitigation. And when we see that, we were definitely looking at the age of housing. We're trying to look and understand, what the infrastructure looks like on a microscopic level. So we're looking at insulation from the attics to the basements. We're looking at how well are doors sealed, windows, are they double paned, single paned, HVAC units, AC units, trying to really understand what people go through on a day-to-day basis, with urban heat and understand their thermal comfort. We specifically want to look at different demographics, whether that's our elderly population, our younger population, our people who are transit dependent. So America is very car centric. We know this. Atlanta, Georgia is currently trying to work on increasing the use of public transportation in our areas to decrease the use of cars, because cars are a great heat emitter. And so we're really trying to make sure that we are focusing on those kind of actions, and being proactive in that way. But yeah, our public transportation dependent individuals, they definitely suffer the most during these hotter months. And so we really want to make sure that when we look at this urban heat action plan from their perspective, perspective, how are we actually helping, how are we actually giving them benefits in situations? So definitely looking at canopies, looking at where we can place more trees, working with our beautification department to understand where we can start to place vegetation. Again, all under the scope of mitigating heat. So understanding how we can actually decrease degrees in different areas, whether, we can use unused paved surfaces to really help build out that canopy cover, and just starting to think about how we can reactivate these spaces so more people want to get outside, especially in the hotter months. And understand how we can create more cooling effects with the work that we do. So yeah, super excited to talk about this with Annika. Super excited to talk about this on a network level. So really looking forward to seeing how an urban heat network can help contribute to these kind of action plans, not just for DeKalb County, but also just for anybody who's looking at creating an action plan. And these action plans can be backed by data. They can be backed by personal experience. They can be backed by, different stories that we're hearing across the board, case studies that we're seeing come up, because there's a lot to learn from. I mean, we see things popping up in Barcelona, we see things popping up in Paris, Los Angeles, Atlanta, even, to kind of help with this urban heat and understand kind of where we need to see more coverage, from a canopy perspective, and also just who are our populations that are most at risk. And so definitely excited to look at that from an urban planning perspective and take that into action.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you communicate about all these issues. It's so coherent and extensive, but packed very succinctly. And I really like how you talk about the network too and the value we see because we're just at the starting point, the inception, and maybe there's surely other urban heat networks out there. So maybe there'll be some connections between networks. But I think what we're developing here and the momentum that I'm experiencing, that everybody that's coming on board is experiencing. I showed you the map
Mhm.
earlier. I'm going to publish that soon. That's showing everybody I've talked to so far, again, as you mentioned, across Africa, Middle East, the Americas, Asia, Australia, Europe. It's just really phenomenal how many people are stepping forward, wanting to connect with others, wanting to share their insight, wanting to develop more insight, interdisciplinary knowledge. So I'm curious, you're interesting to me too, because you come in as a master student, but also an urban planner. So I think this will be really interesting for fellow master students to also
Yeah.
connect with you and see those dual hats. So can you share a bit, maybe reflect on that dual hat, and also just benefits of the network
Yeah.
that you see as a planner, but also a master student.
Of course. Yeah, no, I think dual hat is a good way to put it. I think I've always worn a dual hat, funny enough. I mentioned this before, but I kind of grew up in two places. I grew up here and in France. And so again, the global perspective has always been very much natural to me, almost innate, in nature to kind of just look at things, look at issues from a global perspective, trying to see what two sides of the coin I'm looking at. And so I think that kind of applies also just to me in general now that I'm looking at, career options is me working full time as a planner, and then also really getting into global development and understanding kind of where we start to see the intersection between international affairs, economics, city and regional planning, understanding just on a whole that all these things kind of work together, um, and trying to create kind of one lane out of that. I think that as an urban planner, I am able to provide a lot of perspective, to the studies that I'm doing to kind of better understand how we actually can look at infrastructure as a very much of a solution. Because I think a lot of times people don't see it as one, but I think that that can be our biggest benefactor when we look at heat mitigation is how do we build better residential areas? How do we build better commercial areas? How do we build better cities? And again, looking at, the 15-minute city, understanding that from a planning perspective and applying that into an economic one, because a lot of times we need to see viability, we need to see validity, we need to see kind of what is the incentive here. And I think providing that perspective, I think is great, especially when you think about the network that this program can initiate, especially with people from Europe, again, Africa, the Middle East, all over. I think there's immense value in that collaboration because I can only look at things from, my two perspectives, right? And so understanding how we're actually seeing these issues spread out across the globe, um, is super critical to the mission of what Pedestrian Space is doing, what these, how we actually talk about urban heat in general. Because again, I experience Georgia humidity, experience the Georgia summer. We have a lot of mosquitoes, etc. But somebody in South Africa could experience it in a completely different level. And understanding kind of what resources we need to put where is also super critical because, we all come from different backgrounds. And I think, again, the policymakers in here are super important. And so, how do we create a foundation that policymakers, politicians, people in power can actually look at and use to fund different initiatives, to fund, these programs that are quintessential into creating change, especially on a climate level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think, really exciting that we're developing this network and you're coming into this network at a time when your team and yourself are developing this heat action plan. I don't know the history of heat action plans in human civilization, but I'm guessing they're pretty contemporary, right? Like
Yeah, they're pretty of
they're
our
pretty
century, I would
fresh.
say.
Yeah, the first ones are getting started this decade. So I
Yeah.
think it's a very, I hesitate to use the word exciting because this is a crisis actually, but it is exciting to see these plans developing, right?
There's a
And
lot of work to be done for
there's a lot
sure.
of work to be done, and
Mhm.
that the heat action plans are solutionary. So
Yeah.
I really like the fact that you're coming on board and you'll be able to be a person that people in the network can go to. Like she's actually developing one and
Yeah.
um yeah, inspire one another. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to be in the network with you and collaborate
Yeah,
with you.
same.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is awesome. I think this is kind of like the crux of public outreach, honestly, is being able to extend a hand and having someone take that, especially coming from, just the I guess the nature of the word climate change, right? Seeing how that's being taken today, and being perceived in many different lights, right? Because a lot of people don't want to admit it, a lot of people do. You have kind of this push and pull back and forth between individuals, between, states, etc., whatever it is. And I think that when I'm encouraged when I get to talk to individuals and when I get to talk to people who actually see legitimacy behind these efforts that we're taking, right? They see this as a issue that we need to be proactive about. And I don't even think I can say proactive anymore. I think I just have to say active, because, proactive would have been many years ago.
Yeah.
Many years ago when we first started talking about climate change,
Right.
pre-industrial revolution, if I can. But yes, I do think that there is a great benefit from being able to just be a part of this network, being able to connect with people on this kind of level, and also just build up these case studies, build up, this report. Like I told Annika, I mean, I think we need a packet. That's why we're creating a heat action plan, is because the packet needs to be had. There has to be a literal document to kind of help guide policy, to help guide regulation, to help guide strategy. I think that's super important to kind of creating concrete solutions that will last. So yeah, we're definitely looking at durability, we're looking at sustainability, we're looking at longevity, all the words, all the synonyms that you can think of. I think we're trying to throw that into this document and throw that also in just to the work in general. So, you know, organizations like Pedestrian Space can have a bigger voice, can have a larger voice, and people will listen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the communication piece, the plan that you're developing, it's meant to guide policy, but it also communicates the need, it communicates the problem, it communicates the need. And what I love already as this network is developing is
Mhm.
that there's many, I think, natural born communicators in it, like yourself. I think you're clearly a natural born communicator, and many people who are, I think, ready that I've been doing these talks. These are the first talks. Everything people are seeing, if you're at the Pedestrian Space website for the Urban Heat Pilot, I'm putting all these videos up. These are all from my very first talks with people. And I do try to ask people beforehand via email, would you be ready to do a spontaneous
Hmm.
video? And people are ready. They are ready. And I think it feels
It's
very
been in the vault. It's been
yeah,
in the vault for
exactly.
a very long time.
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
know if you can tell.
And I think people are, and that's what we need too for this issue and more broadly the climate issues, but
Hmm.
for urban heat for sure, people who are comfortable talking to people because it's a scary topic, it's a scary issue as well. So having people who are real comfortable talking and communicating about it and is so important. So you're clearly
Yeah.
one of those people. So yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that this is not a natural disaster. I mean, we had mentioned at the beginning before this recording, and I called urban heat a natural disaster, and you're completely right. It's unnatural. It is a disaster, yes, because it does wreak havoc, but it is an unnatural one. It's not something that, was ever intended. And like I said, we're a very destructive society. We are. We take, and we need to start giving back a little bit. And so I think this is definitely one of the bigger ways that we can do that. And sometimes it's just sitting down and have a conversation about it. My grandmother always used to say, you can't change the world at the dinner table, but shoot, I can try. I can try.
Well, I look forward to that idea exchange we're going to have.
Yeah,
Again, I really love talking with people coming on board about the value they see for the network. Sometimes it's something that's unexpected to me, but really insightful. So
yeah,
seeing what people want also helps as we organize and get it going. So
yeah.
really looking forward to this. And
Same here.
what a great first talk with you. Looking forward to more.
Looking forward to many more. Looking forward to many more. Thank you. Thank you.